Anyway, yeah, like with karma though, it's such a crazy thing. It's like sometimes you read the Palashrutis in Bhagavatam that, oh, if you've read this story, then in your next life you'll get A B C D E F G, or if you read the Kadashi book, sometimes they'll talk about stories of people, and then they accidentally fall into Kadashi on such and such, and then in their next life, yeah, because I mean, you do these things, and you get some sort of result for it in your next life. I don't give, I don't necessarily use this as an example all the time because there are a lot of frauds out there, but I do know one person who told me that they did like a past life regression thing because they wanted to know how they got born into a devotee family in this life. And she said that in her past life regression, she saw that she was at a Rath Yatra and somebody gave her some Mahaprashadam and she ate it, but then she kind of just went on her way. And then that's what she remembered in her past life. But then later there's a conversation with Srila Prabhupada, morning walk, Denver, I believe it is. And my friend told me it's in the transcription, it's on the recording, that Prabhupada said, if you take prasadam in this life, you're guaranteed, and you're a human, you're guaranteed at least in your next life to take birth in a devotee family. And if you're an animal, you at least get a human birth in your next life. So, and then we wrote the people that were on the morning walk, and they wrote back and they verified that Prabhupada actually said that. They remember, so yeah. So I just felt comfortable using that as an example because it was, was backed up in the statement of Prabhupada. But it just shows how, yeah, I mean, we can do one thing and get what's called causeless mercy by Krishna or Agati Sukriti. Same thing though, we can also make some offense, like Chitraketu, and you get cursed by Parvati. So we always have to be very careful. By the way,
I guess in the end, I guess even a good birth represents some kind of suffering because we're still in the material world, and the material world will have suffering possibly for a brahmana as well, you know. Right? So
absolutely.
yeah.
From the highest planet down to the lowest, right? Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm chiming in because my Shanti's asleep, so I can participate.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I had a question. I think the beginning of the purport in the Vedas, it is said that persons who are attached to demigods to the exclusion of the supreme personality of Godhead are like the animals who follow the herdsman, even though they are taken to the slaughterhouse. And Lavanga, you were mentioning about karma, and there's, and you said we're all, so many people are so fallen that they can't even recognize their own karma. And so my question is, I feel like there's so many fallen souls, but who don't really know that they're suffering, and so I guess the vision or the picture I have is like, these innocent cows, and getting taken to some dark, to their death. And I guess, how are, like, is that what it is? Is that we are just not aware of our suffering? Is that why we think we're just happy and, we're trusting our leaders, and then we're going into this, slaughterhouse? Or what is it exactly that keeps us asleep? And
Yeah, that's a very good question. What is it exactly that keeps us asleep and not waking up to our own karma? Well, it's according to my understanding, it can be a combination of things. First, it can be one, our own desires, because we take birth in a situation due to previous activities in the past life, and so then through the direction of Paramatma, we get some type of birth where we can express ourselves in whatever way we were desiring in a previous life. So it could be that, somebody, just wants to totally enjoy the material world. They don't want to think about Krishna. They don't want to think about spiritual realization. So therefore, one could be born in a situation where that's a possibility. But at the same time, since Paramatma is there when one has some desire to know spiritual life, Krishna acting as Chaitya Guru will guide them in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, and then also because people are not aware of their karma, I've asked this question when it comes to reactions. How does that work if somebody doesn't really know, okay, karma's there and I'm going to get this reaction? There's usually a lesser reaction for someone who's unaware. But and then for somebody who knows better, there can be a greater reaction. But yeah, the way I see it is Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the living entities in this world are kind of bound up by desire and hate. So it has to ultimately to do with our previous activities and also our desires too. Just like you approach somebody on the street, you try to give them a book. Sometimes they're like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to worry about this, Or I try to explain karma to my family. They're like, no, that can't be it. Even if it's a logical explanation, they don't want to accept it. Or even like I was trying to talk to one of my friends about vegetarianism and what happens in a slaughterhouse. And they're like, no, don't tell me. Don't tell me, like, I don't want to hear it. Like I'm like, but don't you want to know like where your food goes from? No, I'm fine. Like, don't ruin it for me. There's that whole thing of like, don't ruin it for me. So some people can be in that mentality. Krishna, don't ruin it for me. Like I came to the material world to try to enjoy, to try to be forgetful. And because Shri Upanishad explains that Krishna is in mantra 8 that he's the one fulfilling everyone's desires since time immemorial. Okay, you can take birth in a situation where you don't even have to be aware of karma. Just like animals, they don't get karma at all. They can do whatever. So in other words, there's different levels of humans, and humans can take birth in a situation where they're not really aware of their past activities and things like this. Somebody once asked Srila Prabhupada, why in India, they were like, why in India people are suffering economically, and in the West, like especially like in America at the time, the economy is doing so much better that people are worshiping demigods in India. And Prabhupada gave two different answers, but one answer he gave one time was that because in India people know the proper Vedic culture and they're going away from it, but in America they have some previous good karma. So by their previous good karma, they're having some, prosperity. But he said karma runs out eventually. Things change. So I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. But yeah, so there's desire there, and there's also previous activities that get you in the situation that you're in. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to share the story with the pen? Okay. I had a question too with prasadam and animals, where if we give a prasadam to an animal and they're guaranteed a human birth, I haven't found it, but are they guaranteed a human birth and then like a taste for bhakti? Or is it just like they're guaranteed a human birth?
I heard guaranteed human birth, but I don't know beyond that. I guess it would depend. I mean, I'm sure human birth is always an opportunity, right? Because you get the intelligence to inquire into spiritual life. So they'll be exposed to something. So you have to kind of see where their desires go in that human birth. But Prabhupada, in that particular conversation, he just said human birth. He didn't necessarily say, you know, but it is a step up for them because at least they can start to inquire in terms of the absolute truth. And most people at some point ask the question, you know, what's the point of this human existence? Although some people decide that they don't want to think about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But at least that facility is there.
Okay.
I'm looking up the King Nigra story because I want to see exactly what it what it says about where he went. So I'm looking that up for you.
Okay. Let's see. I guess
So
maybe. Oh,
we
sorry. Go ahead.
we can go to the next verse if you guys want. If you want to do the next one while I look this up really fast.
Yeah. Should we go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Govinda.
Okay. 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 Kechit sva dehantar hridaya vakase pradesa matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga sanka gadadharam dharannaya smaranti. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. Purport. The all-pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of the localized personality of Godhead is estimated to expand from the ring finger to the end of the thumb, more or less 8 inches. The form of the Lord described in this verse, with a distribution of different symbols beginning from the lower right hand up and down to the lower left hand with lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club, respectively, is called Janardana, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass. There are many other forms of the Lord with varied situations of the symbols of lotus, conch shell, etc., and they are differently known as Purushottama, Achyuta, Narasingha, Trivikrama, Rishikesha, Keshava, Mahadeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Hari, Padmanabha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Adhokshaja, and Upendra. These 24 forms of the localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of the planetary system. And in each system, there is an incarnation of the Lord having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called the Paravyoma. There are many other hundreds and scores of different forms of the Lord, and each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragmental offshoot. The Lord exists as Purusha, or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing him to any male form in the material world. But all such forms are Advaita, non-different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated, as described below. In translation, others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. Well, a lot of this I didn't know. This is like my first time reading a lot of what Prabhupada is giving us here. For instance, I didn't know that Krishna in our heart is 8 inches. Uh, in my mind, I thought that since we were like so tiny and we reside in that heart, in that region, that Krishna is also tiny. So I'm not so clear on the 8 inches part. And then also with the Vaikuntha Lokas, I hadn't thought about, yeah, there is like so many planets. There's like an unlimited number of Vaikuntha Lokas. But from my understanding, it's Krishna in his 4-armed form in all the planets, or at least yeah, actually, yeah, even then, like with Purushottama, Achyuta, I mean, Trivikrama, like these different names, but also different forms of Krishna and his form as like Vishnu. Just thinking that what's the difference between them? If yeah, what's the difference between these forms of Krishna as 4-armed? And how can someone be drawn to this? How can someone be drawn to Purushottama and not Trivikrama or Pradyumna? What exactly is the difference between Purushottama and Pradyumna, or whoever, and how is it that someone is more drawn to Pradyumna? And because yeah, I'm not aware of what the differences are there, and yeah, those are the two main things that stood out to me. Just seeing that Krishna is the size of Krishna in our heart, and then also the differentiating Krishna in the Vaikuntha Lokas. So I don't know if maybe Mata Luanga has answers, or if Mata Yamuna, if you've read anything as well.
By the way, you were right, King Leader, when he went to the heavenly planets.
Okay.
Once you get past all the prayers, it says he's circumambulated the Lord, and before he went to the heavenly planets, he said yes. So he went to the heavenly planets. But about these forms of Vishnu, I do know that in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and also the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's different names of Vishnu that's classified according to how he holds each thing in his arms. And from my understanding is it goes from like left down and then up and up. And so according to what he has, so conch, disc, club, and lotus, according to which hand has which, there's like different names. So I want to go back and look that up, but I think when it's talking about these 24 names, I believe that's further mentioned there. As far as and you can read about like, okay, which one is Keshiva and which one is Pradyumna. As far as what makes each person attracted to which form, that's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question for Mana Maharaj. And also, I was thinking too, along with my this question, about the Paramatma being 8 inches. Actually, this was a trick question in a Bhagavad Gita class one time that I was in. Somebody said, "How big is the Paramatma inside of you?" And they're like, "The Bhagavatam says," and we're like, "Where?" And it's 8 inches. So you have that in case you get asked that as a trick question. But now that I'm reading this again, I'm thinking, what about ants? What about other living entities? An ant is smaller than 8 inches. Like, how does that work? Like, is it 8 inches only within the human body, or, how does that work within other bodies? I guess we can ask Maharaj that as well. And let's see, what else was I thinking? I know in terms of, because this is talking about the personality of Godhead within the heart. So this would be people that are the one. It said others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart. So I'm guessing when it says others here, that is referring to those that are into yoga, like the one the mystic yoga meditation processes, and they're on that path of trying to realize Paramatma within themselves. And they're past Brahman, because with Brahman you get the all pervasiveness, but with Paramatma, then form is kind of introduced. So you get, with Paramatma realization, you get Sat and Chit, knowledge and eternality. But Ananda, you only receive when you realize Krishna in full. So, so yeah, that's about as far as my realization takes me on this verse. But I think I have more questions than realization.
No, thank you. Yeah. If, one thing like striking for me though is if Krishna is 8 inches in our heart, or Paramatma is 8 inches, then that's like a substantial portion of us. And so it's like it's helpful for me thinking that Paramatma is not this small little thing, and it's like I don't have to pay so much mind to it. He's actually 8 inches. He's like bigger than our Gorni Thai deities, and if he's 8 inches, so if he's like it's just helpful to keep him more in the mind and meditate more. And Krishna's here, and he's actually takes a substantial portion of the body that I'm in, and he's yeah, makes it more uh like appealing and easier to meditate on him, knowing that he's having these details, like reading it directly from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and having like this factual knowledge of what's going on in this body that I'm in. Yeah.
And we do know that Paramatma is not material. Paramatma is spiritual. Mm-hmm. So, and he's also kind of invisible to the material eyes. That's why these yogis had to develop the vision to be able to see him. So yeah, he's in there. Maybe he's 8 inches, but because Vishnu is Yogeshvara, we're not perceiving, because he's invisible, and he can also lighter than the lightest, and can't be perceived with the material vision, like and also, like Sri Upanishad says, the Supreme Lord is very near, very far away, all of these things. So yeah, at first I was thinking, okay, the 8 inches, but then again, I also remember that it's inconceivable to the material vision. So the 8 inches is just there, but you got to have the vision to see it.
Well, it's like yeah, I mean, it just draws me to like memories of childhood and having an imaginary friend, and just like relating with some imaginary person or thing that you can't see but you can feel. And so that's what it feels like that kind of warmth, where there's an 8-inch person here, I can't see him, but the more I read and talk about, then the more faith that grows there, that he's here. He is here. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems kind of big, because I think the heart actually, is not. I don't even know if the heart is 8 inches long.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I have to ask my, but also somebody told me that it's not exactly necessarily inside the heart, but in the heart region.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it's making me think of too, when I think of Krish Paramatma being 8 inches, with along with the jiva. It's reminding me of how in other ages, people were much taller, much bigger than they are in Kali Yuga. And when Bhakti Sundar Maharaj was here, I can't remember if he came before we had our break or not, but one of the stories that he told was that when the father of Revati went up to Lord Brahma, because he wanted to find a husband for his daughter. So he had a list of potential prospects, and he goes up to Lord Brahma to ask him, which one of these guys would you recommend my daughter marry? Lord Brahma, reading the Shastras, he's a little bit of a matchmaker. So he goes up to Lord Brahma and asks, but Lord Brahma, he's watching some performance, I think it is, at the time, so they tell him to wait a minute. but because the time difference on the Earth planet and Lord Brahma's planet is so different, when Lord Brahma came out and met with him, it was just a minute or few minutes Lord Brahma's time. But when Lord Brahma came out and met with him, he told the guy, "Oh, all these people have already passed away, and so have their children, and so have their grandchildren." And so he said, "Well, who do you recommend then?" And he said, "Well, you can marry her to Balaram, Lord Balaram, because he's still on the planet." So one of the details that Maharaj brought up that I hadn't heard before is that when Revati married Balaram, because she was from a different time, because so much time had passed when her father went to see Lord Brahma to when he came back, that she was actually bigger than taller than him, so much bigger than him, and he didn't like it, so he took his I think like plow or something, reached out and pulled her pulled her down to like his size. So in other ages, it's kind of inconceivable. It might be inconceivable. How you have this 8-inch Paramount inside the body, but also in other ages, people were much much bigger as well.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, that's a very nice detail. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Bhakti Sundar Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai. Jai.
It's actually 6:34, guys, or 9:34 for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. We can wrap it up now. And well, even though the recording started late, I did most of my talking at the beginning, but that was missed this time. But just for anybody who tuned in late and wants to know which verses we actually read today, we did read Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 7, and Text 8. And well, next week we look forward to seeing you again when Mother Nalanga will be leading the discussion.
Thank you for reminding me, because I totally forgot like where we were at in the
Yes,
schedule.
and we must thank Guru Maharaja, Manunatha Maharaja. We must thank him for this opportunity to get together and discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam. I thank all of you for your association, and well, I look forward to seeing you next time. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai. Oh, Govinda, how was your first Janmashtami in Alachua? Did you guys have a good time?
We got rained out, but
No. Okay.
yeah, but it was still nice. Yeah, it was still, the core of it was still there, so it was nice. But yeah, I think the rain changed things a little bit, but it turned out however it was supposed to turn out. But so we got to see the village of Vrindavan and in the rain. Yeah.
Did they give you maha?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay. They're still following standard. Good. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yes, thank you. So thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Bye.